This time I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk Barger, if you will, please call the roll.
Master Combs.
Here.
Master Lockmuller.
Here.
Master Hughes.
Bookham, Dano.
Master Botkin.
Present.
Judge Taylor.
Here. At this time, I'd like to invite my friend Mitch Brown. Where's Mitch? There you are. Hi, buddy. Up to lead us in a word of prayer. Right over here, Mitch. Congrats, Mitch, too. Mitch is the pastor of the First Baptist Church there in Berea.
Thank you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege that we have in serving, Lord. And we pray that as this staff is serving, Lord, that they're serving the people that has empowered them to be in this position, Lord. And we pray according to Micah, your prophet, chapter 6, verses 6 through 8, that they would love mercy, do what's right, and walk humbly before our God. And Lord, we thank you, Father, that we serve a God, Lord, who watches all, sees all, and we pray that our actions will be pleasing in your sight. Strengthen them where they're weak, and encourage them, Lord, when they need encouragement. And we pray that your presence will certainly lead and guide them in all of their decisions. And Father, we thank you, Lord, that it's a privilege to be able to say it's in God that we trust, that we put our hope and our confidence in. And we give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you, Mitch.
Mitch, you was a bodyguard for Muhammad Ali, wasn't you, one time?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. You don't be messing with Mitch.
Sheriff, if you will, lead us in the pledge.
Everybody please stand and place our flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Members of the court, y'all have had a chance to look over the previous meeting minutes. They've been in your packet. July 14th, that was a regular scheduled meeting. I need a motion and a second to approve, please.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Master Lockmuller.
Yes.
Master Hughes.
Yes.
Master Botkin.
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Next, our treasurer's report. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. Our treasurer's report today is as of June 30th, 2026. Our total fund budget was $64,051,204.26. Our general fund revenues were 149.66%, expenditures 40.84%. Our road fund revenues 85.04%, expenditures 79.55%. Jail fund revenues 79.32%, expenditures 80.14%. LGEA fund revenues 133.23%, expenditures 19.2%. EMA fund revenues 88.75%, expenditures 54.73%. Our 911 fund revenues 64.95%, expenditures 49.91%. And our health fund revenues were 100.3%, expenditures were 97.7%.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Members of the court, do you have any questions? Treasurer's report. All right, hearing none. Thank you. First order of business today is first reading of ordinance 2026-004. It's a land use change, 2494 Lexington Road, from UC7 Agriculture to UC5 Industrial.
Morning, everybody.
This is a, real quick, this is a first reading, does not require a vote. Bert?
An ordinance of the Madison County Fiscal Court, Kentucky, approving the zone change of 2494 Lexington Road, Richmond, Kentucky, and authorizing the amendment of the official zoning map of Madison County, Kentucky. Whereas hereinafter described land is located in Madison County, Kentucky, and And whereas the Madison County Planning Commission held a public hearing on Tuesday, July 21st, 2026, to consider a land use change request application from UC7 Agriculture to UC5 Industrial. Upon presentation by the applicant and public comment and testimony, findings of fact were made by the Planning Commission as described in their summary of evidence, findings of fact, and recommendation to the Fiscal Court attached hereto and made a part hereof for all purposes as follows. And you all have a list of the findings and the recommendation. Whereas the Madison County Planning Commission, upon hearing testimony, made a motion with unanimous consent to recommend to the Madison County Fiscal Court to approve the land use change request from UC7 to UC5. And whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court has reviewed said findings and recommendation of the Madison County Planning Commission and being otherwise sufficiently advised, does hereby adopt the findings of fact made thereby. Now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the Fiscal Court of the County of Madison, Commonwealth of Kentucky, that the land use classification of the following described property be changed by this ordinance from UC7 to UC5 classification. Section 1 contains a legal description of the property. Section 2, that the Madison County GIS coordinator make the appropriate changes to the official zoning map of Madison County, Kentucky. Section 3, that the county clerk cause this ordinance to be published in accordance with the Kentucky Revised Statutes. Section 4, that this ordinance shall become effective on the date of the second reading and adoption.
Okay, thank you, Bert. The Madison County Planning Commission had a public hearing and heard public comments on July 21st, just for the knowledge of the Fiscal Court. I would encourage you all to go and watch that planning and zoning meeting to hear the public comment and to watch that meeting on this zone change, on all the zone changes that we've got coming up. So any discussion, any questions that any of y'all have?
Only comments to say that I saw the marathon meeting. It was a good one.
Yeah. Anyone else? A draft copy of this ordinance will be available on our website at www.madisoncountyky.gov under the government tab, transparency and public notices, for anybody that wants to see this document. All right.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no further discussion, this is a first reading of ordinance 2026-004. Our second reading will be at our next fiscal court meeting. All right, next is first reading of ordinance 2026-005, land use change 2401 Duncannon Lane from UC7 Agriculture to UC4 General Business. This also is a first reading and does not require a vote. Bert, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance of the Madison County Fiscal Court, Kentucky, approving the zone change of 2401 Duncannon Lane, Richmond, Kentucky, and authorizing the amendment of the official zoning map of Madison County, Kentucky. Whereas the hereinafter described land is located in Madison County, Kentucky, and whereas the Planning Commission held a public hearing on Tuesday, July 21st, 2026, to consider land use change request application from UC7 Agriculture to UC4 General Business. Upon presentation by the applicant and public comment and testimony, findings of fact were made by the Planning Commission as described in their summary of evidence, findings of fact and recommendation to the Fiscal Court attached hereto and made a part hereof for all purposes as follows. And again, you'll have a list of the findings and recommendation. Whereas the Madison County Planning Commission, upon hearing testimony, made a motion with unanimous consent to recommend to the Madison County Fiscal Court to approve the land use change request from UC7 to UC4. And whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court has reviewed said findings and recommendation of the Madison County Planning Commission and being otherwise sufficiently advised, does hereby adopt the findings of fact made thereby. Now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the Fiscal Court of Madison, the County of Madison, Commonwealth of Kentucky, that the land use classification of the following described property be changed by this ordinance from UC7 to UC4 classification. Section 1 contains a legal description of the property. Section 2, that the Madison County GIS coordinator make the appropriate changes to the official zoning map of Madison County, Kentucky. Section 3, that the county clerk cause this ordinance to be published in accordance with the Kentucky Revised Statutes. And Section 4, that this ordinance shall become effective on the date of the second reading and adoption.
All right, thank you, Bert. This also was at the Planning Commission, the public hearing that was held on July 21st also. So again, I would encourage members of the court, if you have not watched that, to to do so, please. Any questions? Any comments? Again, this is the first reading of ordinance 2026-005. For anybody in the community that would like a draft copy of this ordinance, it will be available on our website at www.madisoncountyky.gov under the Government tab, Transparency, Public Notices. All right. Next on our agenda is the first reading of ordinance 2026-006. This is the land use change of 2747 Lancaster Road from UC7 agriculture to UC1 single-family residential. Again, this is a first reading, does not require a vote. Bert, if you will, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance of the Madison County Fiscal Court, Kentucky, approving the zone change of 2747 Lancaster Road, Richmond, Kentucky, and authorizing the amendment of the official zoning map of Madison County, Kentucky. Whereas the hereinafter described land is located in Madison County, Kentucky, and whereas the Madison County Planning Commission held a public hearing on Tuesday, July 21st, 2026, to consider a land use change request application from UC7 agriculture to UC1 single-family residential. Upon presentation by the applicant and public comment and testimony, findings of fact were made by the Planning Commission as described in their summary of evidence, findings of fact and recommendation to the fiscal court attached hereto and made a part hereof for all purposes as follows. And again, you have a list of the recommendation and the findings. Whereas the Madison County Planning Commission held upon hearing testimony, made a motion with unanimous consent to recommend to the Madison County Fiscal Court to approve the land use change request from UC7 to UC1. And whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court has reviewed said findings and recommendation of the Madison County Planning Commission and being otherwise sufficiently advised, and does hereby adopt the findings of fact made thereby. Now therefore be it ordained and enacted by the Fiscal Court of the County of Madison, Commonwealth of Kentucky, that the land use classification of the following described property be changed by this ordinance from UC7 to UC1 classification. Section 1 contains a legal description of the property. Section 2, that the Madison County GIS coordinator make the appropriate changes to the official zoning map of Madison County, Kentucky. Section 3, that the county clerk cause this ordinance to be published in accordance with the Kentucky Revised Statutes. Section 4, this ordinance shall become effective on the date of the second reading and adoption.
Thank you, Bert. Members of the court, you've heard the first reading of ordinance 2026-006. Again, this was held a public hearing and heard at the Planning Commission meeting on July 21st. Any discussion today? Any questions y'all may
Only
have?
comment I have, Judge, is I went out the other day just to look at the properties. Two of the properties I couldn't get on, and so for all of them that are on this, I would appreciate it if the gates are open so that we can drive on the properties.
Oh, I don't, that would be up to the property owner, and I don't know if they got cattle on, or if they want people on their property. That may be something I can facilitate with the property owner if you want me to try to set something up, or.
Well, I know in the past, when there's been zone changes, you and I have gone out
Right.
and driven over the
Sure.
properties.
And I don't think
so-
anybody would have a problem with that. If you want to, just
Yeah.
let me know. We'll
All right.
take a little ride.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else? A draft copy of this ordinance will be available on our website at www.madisoncountyky.gov under the Government tab, Transparency and Public Notices.
Hey, Judge,
Sure.
this might not be the time to say it, but I'm going to spit her out there anyway. If you don't want me on your property, please just call and leave me a message. That'd be fine. I don't have to be on there, but I like to go out and look at the properties if I'm making a vote on it. So I'll go with Bert. I won't be out there stomping around by myself, but if you want me on your property, just text me or give me a call and let me know.
Yeah, Tom, I don't really think anybody will have a problem with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Bert. Next, Resolution 2026-069. It's Madison County Detention Center Roadside Inmate Work Crews MOA. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning. A resolution approving a memorandum of agreement between the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, and the Madison County Detention Center for roadside inmate work crews. Whereas the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, and the Madison County Detention Center wish to establish an agreement for roadside inmate work crews, and whereas during the 2-year term of this memorandum of agreement, The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet will pay the county jail up to $11,250 for meals while performing road maintenance on the roadside crew. Transportation Cabinet will pay up to $56,250 for the correctional officer providing inmate supervision for the days the inmate crew performs work, and reimburse overtime pay for the officer up to $2,813. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet shall reimburse mileage at the rate determined by the Finance Cabinet unless the Transportation Cabinet provides a vehicle for transporting inmates. And whereas the initial memorandum of agreement is effective from July 1, 2026 through June 30, 2028. Now therefore be it resolved that the fiscal court does hereby approve this resolution and authorizes the judge executive and/or his designee and the Madison County jailer to execute the same on behalf of the county.
Thank you, Larry. Members of the court, you've heard Resolution 2026-069. What's the pleasure of the court?
Take a motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
I just want to say I appreciate you getting this program brought back alive again. It sort of died out in the COVID years and a lot of other reasons we didn't get it going back. But it's a good program when we did have it in place. It's good to see those folks out and doing things. If you have people, not everybody can go out of the jail to do that. But
Right.
it's a really good program, and we appreciate
We're
it.
going to try to make it work, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone else? We do have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2026-069. Hearing nothing else, call the roll, please.
Master Hughes,
Yes.
Master Buchan,
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Master Lockmiller.
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Next, Resolution 2026-070, Madison County Board of Education Interlocal Cooperation Agreement for Dispatch and Emergency Communication Services. Jill.
Good morning. This is a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the Madison County Fiscal Court acting through the Madison County Emergency Communications Center and the Madison County Board of Education, collectively referred to as the parties. Whereas the Madison County Board of Education has established and operates a school police department pursuant on KRS 158.471 and other applicable provisions of Kentucky law known as the Madison County Schools Police Department. And whereas the board desires to obtain emergency communications and dispatching services for its school police department through the Madison County Emergency Communications Center. And whereas MCECC is willing to provide such dispatching services subject to the terms, conditions, limitations, and protections contained herein. And whereas the parties are authorized to enter into this agreement pursuant on Kentucky Interlocal Cooperation Act, KRS Chapter 65. And whereas the parties wish to enter into this agreement and do hereby agree to the terms and conditions set forth in the agreement as attached here to this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the Madison County Fiscal Court does hereby approve this resolution and authorizes the judge executive and/or his designee to negotiate and execute the same on behalf of the county.
Thank you, Jill. Members of the court, you've heard Resolution 2026-070. Can I have a motion and a second for approval?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What brought this about? It's kind of unusual.
Yeah, well, I think
police
that
force.
the
got
Board
their
of
own
Education
police force.
established their own police force. And that is not something that's happened in the past. As you'll remember, their SROs were provided through the existing law enforcement agencies. And so now that they've established their own police force, they also need dispatching services. And so in lieu of them providing their own dispatching services, they have asked to be part of our dispatching agency. And we do have a signed agreement that we got from the Board of Education this morning that may not have been in your packet, but it's now signed.
Well, thank you for getting me straight there on some of the numbers there that we were looking at. I appreciate that. One of the questions that I did have that I didn't see covered in here, and maybe I overlooked it, if I did, you please straighten me out, but this agreement covers the cost of a dispatcher. But it seems like that there should be some type of consideration for the equipment. You know, what about the radios that they're used?
So any license or anything, I can't remember the section that's outlined in, but it is outlined in there that they provide those license fees and they're responsible for those costs. That is not the cost of the agency. It does not cost us any extra. If we have 25 dispatchers and we have 25 licensed already, providing dispatching services does not require us to get additional equipment or license. Therefore, we will not pass that on to them unnecessarily.
The upkeep cost of the radios and those things, will they be covering those? No.
Well,
And keep it-
they're handhelds, they will. I mean,
Right.
they'll have radios just like any of the agencies that once CSEP was over, those were dispositioned to those different entities. And so now they're responsible for, if they have mobiles in the car or if they have handheld radios, they're responsible for those. That is not something we supply.
I didn't know that.
And
the
keep in
school-
mind the difference between the radio system and the dispatch services system. Two different systems, two different things in general, as far as radios versus what they carry on their hip is not what we're talking about here. This is for our team to be able to dispatch their officers just like we do for the sheriff's department or RPD or BPD.
I'm cool with that. Just looks like the two would be tied together. I don't see how how they're gonna call in to say they got to involve the radio somewhere along the way. But anyway, it's all good. Just want to make sure that's covered.
All right, any other questions? We do have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2026-070. Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Master Buchan?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Lockmuller?
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next is personnel.
Yes, at this time, I would just ask the court to approve the personnel that is located already in your court packet.
So moved.
That's 3 firefighters.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the hiring recommendation as presented. Any discussion?
Are you 100%, Chief?
This makes us 6 short still.
Need firefighters. Anybody looking for a job?
All right, anyone else? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Lockmuller?
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Buchan?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next is judge's report, just a few announcements. School and college day starts on, for Madison County students. Madison County Schools and Berea Community Schools Thursday, August 13th. Model Laboratory School is Tuesday, August 25th. EKU is Monday, August 24th. Berea College is Tuesday, August 25th. Please be mindful of school and bus traffic that will increase throughout the community. EKU's Welcome Walk will be on Wednesday, August 19th at 9:30 p.m. It'll be on Lancaster Avenue. Kentucky 52 will be closed between Eastern Bypass and Crab Street. Barnes Mill Road will be closed between Eastway Drive to Lancaster Avenue. They're at the gas station. This year's Pops in the Park will be on Saturday, August the 15th at the Whitehall State Historic Site. For anybody interested in participating in Pops in the Park, it's always a great event. For more information, contact the Richmond Area Arts Council by calling 859-624-4242 or visit Richmond, Kentucky at 859-626-8474. Always remember you can visit our website at www.madisoncountyky.gov/community events to see a list of some of the events happening throughout our community. And if you have an event you would like to feature it on the page, just simply click the Submit an Event button and complete the form. Comments from magistrates? Tom?
I've only got one thing today, Judge. You have the right to go on social media, say, do anything you want to. I'm not complaining about that. But we're getting caught up with our roads over past the flood. There was a lot of washouts, a lot of holes. It created a lot of different things that we've been slowly working on. I've seen some comments on social media about some of those places in the 4th District, and maybe I know about them, maybe I don't. But if you've got a problem with those things, for the last 12 years, I've given out my telephone number at court, and I'm going to do it again today. Just call me. If I can tell you if there's a order already in on it, I can tell you, or at least get a status for where it's at in the process. You know, they've got a lot of priority, and I can tell you that initially their priority was not potholes. You know, when we got roads that are missing, that was the priority. So they're slowly and surely working on those things. But if you have any problem with anything like that, please just give me a call. If anybody needs me, they can reach me at 200-9765. Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, Tom. Brian?
Well, hey, thanks, Judge. Just glad to be here.
I'm good. Thanks, Judge.
You all right?
I guess it's my turn, isn't it?
It is.
2 or 3 things. County fairs this week. And our fair board, they work tirelessly out there to put on a nice county fair, and I want to encourage everyone to go support those guys out there. It's always a good time. I'm not going to be at the next meeting, so I need to make a couple of points. I want to talk a little bit about our economic development efforts that we've undertaken as a county. And, from my recollection, what started this was we didn't know what was going to happen at the Army Depot. We thought we were going to lose all them jobs, and so we were planning for that. But what's happened in the past very few months is, $1 billion has been committed out there for several different projects. I mean, it's a tremendous, and we're going to get the payroll tax, and we don't have to invest a nickel. The county doesn't have to invest a nickel. So with that, the changes out there in the Army Depot, in my mind, it kind of changed my priorities, because it was like a gift from above. Now, like I said, I'm not going to be here, and I need to make a point. On our economic development, we're looking at a piece of property out on Lexington Road, and we just did a zone change for agriculture, and I'm not getting much feedback in terms of numbers, but so I have to do my own numbers, and I'm looking at the acreage, 722 acres, and that's the land cost is $19 million. Now, they did an excavation estimate on that piece of property, which was $63 million. That's an estimate. But that's a total project investment of $82 million, and that doesn't include any infrastructure outside the boundary. Now, I divide that by 722 acres. That's $113,000 an acre that we will have in that piece of property, $113,000 an acre. Richmond Industrial Development Corporation is trying to sell build-ready sites at $50,000 an acre, and they can't sell them. And we're going to have a piece of property with this at $113,000. Now, I did, because I've been doing cost analysis and cost justifications and capital project analysis for probably longer than you've been alive. But anyway.
What are you saying?
I'm old. But here's the situation. If we got 1,000 employees on this particular piece of property, and their average annual salary was $75,000 a year, that's a big payroll, $75 million. But we get 1%. That's $750,000 a year that we would get from payroll. Well, $82 million divided by $750,000, take 109 years. 109 years to pay off that piece of property. Now, we're a fiscal court, not a physical court. We're fiscal, financial court. And, we got to make good business decisions. You can't go on your heart. It seems to me that we got this unreasonable obsession with acquiring this piece of property. And I don't know. I just think, I'm not opposed to it, but I just think, if I'm wrong, somebody tell me, but I'm looking at a 100-year payback, and I'll give you a copy of this right here.
Can we just pass them down?
No,
Or you need to stretch your legs?
I need to stretch my legs.
All right. Thank you, sir.
And anyway, somebody, I hate to say it, somebody described our court as a bobblehead court. And I don't want to be no bobblehead. I'm going to be here next time. Y'all got to do what you got to do, but I'm just telling you, this doesn't look like a wise investment for the taxpayer. That's all I got to say.
That's all you got. All right. Counselor, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Kenny?
No, sir.
Sheriff? You good? All right. Comments from department heads? Jill?
I do have a letter from a citizen that I wanted to share that highlights our fire department. And so I'll just read Ms. Hall's letter. Good afternoon. My apologies for delay getting back to you. I just wanted to thank you for your quick response and getting the report to me. I also want to thank the Madison County Fire Department and all of the others and all they did to assist when our house caught fire Friday, July 17th, 2026. There are no words to sufficiently express my gratitude. From the time 911 was called to the time they arrived on scene was 4 minutes. 4 minutes, unbelievable. Again, we are so grateful and so very blessed. Thank you, could never suffice or begin to express our gratitude. Respectfully, Kimberly Hall. And this was Battalion Chief Greg Lovett's shift, and so often we get the opposite. And so when a citizen takes the time out of their day when they're going through a hard situation to say thank you to our fire department, we want to make sure that we pass that along to not on the court. Chief has this as well, but just to say thank you to that crew.
Good job.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Chief. Next is public comment period, and Beth is the first one up. Good morning, Beth.
Did your boss give you permission to be here?
I'm using vacation hours, Magistrate Hughes, thank you. Happy to do so and happy to be here. My name is Beth Hudson. I live on Moran Summit Road at Paint Lick. I am opposed to the land use changes for the property located at 2747 Lancaster Road that has been spoke about today, as well as the other two properties that are within a half a mile of each other that will be coming before the court soon. It is my belief that this property does not meet the criteria set forth in the comprehensive plan because the property does not access roadways that will support the additional traffic. This location is approximately 8 miles out Lancaster Road from the Eastern Bypass and approximately 4 miles from the last subdivision. It is surrounded on all sides by farmland. Lancaster Road is a 2-lane state road with no turn lane and suffers from neglect. The road is in constant state of repair, and when repairs are made, they are done with a temporary fix. There is only one place to pass on Lancaster Road. That is between Old Town Branch and the Duncannon turnoff. This farm is more or less at the intersection and curve of 1295. That area is known for accidents. Being a state road, it is not cleared quickly during winter snow. It is not a top priority, and we spend several days creeping along to get to town with no sign of pavement. The roads are not ready for 500 more homes. I'd also like to say that it is odd to me that Ms. Parrish has requested this land use change. She seems to love the land. Even when asked by Mr. Isaacs at the Planning and Zoning meeting if she thought this was the best use of the land, she seemed to hesitate and have a hard time saying yes. In the past, when Ms. Parrish has broke off small tracts, she has put strict restrictions on those deeds, including that they could not be further subdivided, that the new owner was not to be an annoyance or a nuisance to adjoining properties, and that the owner must waive any claim of damages that might occur due to neighboring livestock. These restrictions seem appropriate, and I would love to know what has changed in her thinking. My main issue of complaint seems to lie with the urban corridor. It is my opinion that this urban corridor is far too broad. The Planning and Zoning Board seemed to feel, as mentioned at their meetings, that if a land use change comes to them and the request falls within the corridor, that they must approve it and send it to the court for decision. The area we are discussing today in the Lancaster Road area should never have been included in that corridor. There is nothing urban about this rural area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Beth. Appreciate it. Next up is Nick Markham. Nick, and I didn't, just for the record, but everybody knows Beth, but everybody probably knows you too. Just state your name just for the record.
We'll make it a family affair. Beth is my far older sister.
Yeah.
She's really not. I pick on her. Beth is my sister. My name is Nick Markham. I also live on Morton Summit Road. I'll keep this as brief as I can. Good morning, members of Fiscal Court and all in attendance. Again, my name is Nick Markham. I'm a lifelong resident of Madison County, as well as a lifelong Madison County farmer. Our home and our farms are less than a mile from the affected areas on Lancaster Road and Moore and Mill. As Beth said, a couple of these properties have not been brought before you all, but they're coming. And this is why I'm here today. Recent happenings over the last few years in Madison County have alarmed me as a farmer and a citizen for the future of agriculture and the well-being of Madison County in general. Farms are being sold at a very high rate, and there's nothing wrong with that. I believe that everybody has a right to buy and sell property as they please. But what concerns me is the next step for that property. This is land that for its lifetime has provided air, food, and the beautiful scenery that Madison County has to offer. More often than not, it will be developed into concrete, blacktop, and narrowly spaced homes to convenience people who are often not even native to Madison County. Between 2017 and 2022, and this is per the Extension Office's ag census, Madison County decreased by 17% of work and farmland. And that strikes me as a large loss in just a short 5 years. I don't have numbers since 2022 that we can trust that are proven numbers. But I feel like we all know that we haven't slowed down much since 2022, if at all. At this continued rate of development, we fear that Madison County farmers cannot uphold the traditions that we're so proud of. Agriculture is what built Madison County. Tobacco and beef cattle. I fear that our heritage is at risk, and if we continue to allow the development of these properties. After talking to local ag teachers, and I feel like this is an important point, I learned that 50% of ag students plan to pursue farming or some form of an agriculture-related field. But these kids have expressed that they fear they will have to leave their home county because they cannot compete with developers on land prices. We have to plan for the next generations to carry on and be able to feed their families and keep money in a local Madison County economy. And that time is now. At this rate, who's going to grow our food? What are we going to do when the farms are on neighborhood and blacktop? Even on our high-quality farms, a single cow needs 1 to 3 acres to maintain proper pasture health. The whole point of the farm is to give livestock room to roam and graze and to gain weight and provide farmers with the necessary profits to continue to feed and provide for our community. God has given us a great gift here in Madison County, a gift of good soil and generations of talented farmers who want to live this peaceful and providing life for themselves and for others. I'm not asking you not to develop. I'm asking you to slow down. Think about how we go forward and consider the generations ahead of us. Step back and plan. Who will feed our grandchildren and their children when the farms are gone? How can this government invite a higher population in here when we have trouble seeing to the needs of the existing population? I challenge you to keep the rural areas just that. Keep the development areas nearer to the towns and leave the farmland on the outskirts to those who will work it and provide for you and your family. Our family farms are over a 20-minute drive from here, and I'm going to touch on this as my sister did. Your urban corridor encompasses these areas. We are far closer to Garrett County than we are to Richmond, and it is beyond my understanding how a farming community so far from any town can be labeled for development. Who drew these lines? And we can keep this rhetorical, or y'all can answer me if you like. I'll go with it either way. Who drew these lines? Was it a faraway engineering firm? Or has this administration drawn these lines themselves without asking us what we would like? Nobody Nobody asked any farmers in this area if they would like their property placed in a future development corridor. I assure you the resounding answers would be no. I ask you to slow down, think about how we go forward, and at least give time and proper attention to the concerns that your voters have brought before you. The people of this district do not want these developments. I'd like to thank you, sir, for your comment earlier that you would like to take your time to go and physically see these properties. I think that's a great thing. I invite all of you to do the same. I feel like you should. I feel like maybe this is an area that doesn't get a whole lot of attention from this court, and that's okay. We kind of keep to ourselves and take care of ourselves. But if anybody'd like a tour, I'll flip the bill for the rental van and I'll drive you around. Y'all come see us. It's a beautiful place, and my family has got 70 years in this area, and we're really proud of that. And that's all I've got for you. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it. Next up is Joanna Jones.
Good morning. I'm Joanna Jones. I am the wife of Nick Markham. I want to talk to you about something that's often overlooked when we talk about growth, development, and the future of our community. Farming is a business. It is not simply a hobby, but a way of life. It's not just a piece of vacant land waiting for something to be developed. For many families, farming is a business that represents generations of investment, hard work, and responsibilities. When a farmer purchases land, they are making a major business investment. They invest in their land, equipment, infrastructure, livestock, seed, fertilizer, insurance, fuel, taxes, maintenance, and among many other things. And unlike many businesses, farmers cannot simply close their doors when the market changes or when the weather does not cooperate. A farmer can do everything right and still lose money because of disease, rising input costs, equipment failures, and changing market prices, drought and flooding like we've seen in this county recently. Imagine operating a business where your inventory is alive and breathing. Your production depends on the weather, and your largest investment cannot be moved to a different location when the surrounding environment changes. Farming does not only benefit the individual farmer, but it impacts the entire community. I ask that you consider your community. You may think it's only one farm that you're approving this zone change for on Lancaster Road, but it is so much more than that. This is where it begins, but my fear as a Madison County resident, I will always question where it will end. When we talk about agriculture, we need to understand that we are not just talking about one farmer operating one farm. We're talking about an entire network of businesses. The equipment dealers such as Mead Tractor Sales, fuel, seed, and fertilizer from Tri-County. We pay property taxes. We get loans from ag lenders. We acquire insurance through State Farm Bureau. And we buy and sell livestock at the local stockyards. We use your local veterinarians, and we supply the burgers and produce that you eat at your local restaurants. My concern is not that communities should never grow. I know that growth is necessary and businesses need to grow. Communities need to plan for the future, but growth should be thoughtful and responsible. When farmland is gradually surrounded by residential development, farmers often face complaints about normal agricultural activities, tractors driving slowly on the roads, and the dust and the noise that comes with farming, odors from livestock and spraying. What happens when a neighbor kid climbs a fence and wants to go exploring on the neighbor's farm and gets hurt by a 900-pound animal? What happens to our insurance? What happens? We're liable for that. Or what if a neighbor trims their property line and the brush falls from a cherry tree over the fence where livestock is held? Do you know what that does to cattle and horses and sheep and goats? It kills them. Do you know how much one cow goes for sale? Costs $5,000 at least right now in this market. Eventually, the farmer can become the problem just because the neighborhood moved in next door. As business people, we understand the importance of protecting our investments. We understand planning and infrastructure and long-term sustainability and the consequences of making decisions one property at a time without considering the larger picture. I'm not asking that growth stop. I'm asking that we recognize farmland for what it is. It's a business. It's an economic asset. It's a source of food and a part of our community's future. You are not just here today simply changing a zoning map. You are making a long-term economic decision about what kind of community Madison County is striving to be in the future. Growth and agriculture do not have to be enemies, but if we want farming to remain a viable business in Madison County, we have to make sure that the growth is planned in a way that leaves room for businesses that have been here for generations. The urban corridor should not automatically override the value of agricultural businesses and farms that already exist. I believe that our elected officials have an important responsibility in this conversation today. A magistrate is not elected to speak only for the loudest voice in the room or for the people with the greatest financial resources. A magistrate represents the people of their district, including the farmers and the families, the business owners, and the residents who may not have the money or influence to hire someone to speak for them. For everyone who has had the courage to get up and speak today, I pray that your concerns are heard and considered. For Judge Taylor and the magistrates, I pray that you find a healthy balance between acquiring more tax dollars and listening to the citizens and doing what's best for Madison County.
Thank you, Joanna. Next up is Martin Lovell. Mr. Lovell.
My name is Martin Lovell. I live in Waco, 576 Drowning Creek Road. Once, this goes for the council, once you make these changes, how long does it take to reverse them? How long does it take to go back to farmland?
Well, I would think once it's developed, you're never going to
Thank you.
go back. Once it's developed.
Correct. How many industrial parks do we have? One in Berea, one in Madison County?
Madison County doesn't have an industrial park. The Richmond does. Richmond and Berea, yes.
Richmond, yes. Are they full? Then I encourage you.
That I'm not aware of.
Thank you for your thoughts. I encourage you to look at those and maybe build those out before we establish a new one on 700 acres. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lovell. Ms. Yeager.
Good morning. My name is Margaret Carol Yeager. My husband and I live at 2653 Lancaster Road. We have an adjoining boundary fence with a 2747 Lancaster Road property, one of the properties we are considering today. The application seeks to change from UC7 agriculture to UC1 single-family residential. In spite of the short time we've been given to understand the ramifications of this zone change, we've actually learned a great deal. One thing I've learned is that UC1 is a broad mixed-use classification, which includes more than what we typically think of when we read single-family residential. As I read through the applications, which, by the way, were not easy to find on the county website, I had some concern about the statement made under findings of facts that I will quote. Findings of facts, right here. The existing zone classification, RC7 agriculture, given to the property is inappropriate, and the proposed zoning classification, UC1 being single-family, is appropriate for the following reasons. I'm still quoting. The character of the surrounding area and this property are more suitable for residential purposes, as the subject property is in close proximity to other properties used for that same. We're the closest property to this one. We have cattle on our farm. For as long as I've lived next to this farm, it's been a cattle farm, and every morning when I look out my kitchen window, I've seen cattle in the fields on this farm. At times, cattle from one farm have crossed the fence into the pasture of the other farm. I can give you many examples. This has not been a problem, because when this happens, we just call the farm manager or the owner of the property and work out the details of getting the strayed cow or calf back in the appropriate field. Sometimes that takes a while. Sometimes it's 2:30 in the morning. When I think that this application says that the UC7 agricultural zone classification is inappropriate, I think it seems like it's the other way around. Actually, the UC1 single-family residential zone classification is inappropriate. Here are the reasons. Now, some of this has been mentioned by Joanna. We're still going to emphasize some of the things here. When houses on 1 acre or less lots are built on the 66.6 acres, what will happen when someone plants bushes? She's mentioned this. This happens if you're a farmer. This is something, or if you live on a farm, this is something you're quite aware of. You've got to be careful with those bush trees that fall down. You've got to be careful with bushes that happen to be on the back of the farm you may not see. You've got to travel that land all the time, because some clippings are toxic to the cattle and make them sick, or even worse, kill one. And like Joanna mentioned, one animal, one cow that's killed, and even in some cases horses, it's going to cost a lot. So even if you have a veterinary bill, you've got to spend a lot for a veterinary bill. So what happens when a curious child crosses a boundary line? What if a teenager wants to party on your farm? And, you know, all know that that happens. They could get trampled by the cattle on the property. So what happens when a pet dog or a cat crosses the boundary fence and scares the cattle on my side of the fence? What happens when someone sprays their fence row with toxic chemicals? Actually, we've been approached by a neighbor just recently, very sweet, that she called and asked if she could use this spray to spray her fence row. She joins our property. And she said because it says on the chemical that she's going to use on the bottle that she got from Tri-County that it's toxic to animals. When we checked, yes, no, you don't, yes, you don't spray something like that on a fence row, because that spray can travel for long distances. If there's a cow or calf in the vicinity, it's very likely to kill that cow or calf. I could go on, but for the sake of time, I think the point is made about that. Another point under the findings of fact on the application states that this zone change will not disrupt traffic along Lancaster Road or Duncannon Road, nor will its use disrupt the surrounding property's quiet enjoyment. I think I've already addressed the issues that may arise with a boundary fence between an agricultural zone and a single-family residential zone. Cut bushes, curious children, teenagers, pets, et cetera, et cetera. These are likely to disrupt the surrounding property's quiet enjoyment. I think you can see the farms and the dense subdivisions just don't mix well. Not that we don't expect development. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is how are we going to deal with these things when you have houses in pretty large densities right next to an existing farm that's been there for a very long time. But let me also address the fact that the application says that single-family zoning will not disrupt traffic along Lancaster Road or Duncannon Road. Actually, I invite you to come and drive this area of the Lancaster Road where it intersects 1295, also known as Moore Mill Road. We have new fencing put up on the Lancaster Road side on our farm after the tornado in 2009, then again in 2017, and again this past January, all at that intersection. If you've traveled 1295 Moore Mill Road in that intersection, you have seen the old rusty gates that we use to repair our fence at that intersection. I get very embarrassed about the looks of those old rusty fences, but they serve their purpose. They keep the cattle in the field from getting out on the road, and because it's such a frequent occurrence, that these accidents occur because someone's coming too fast out of Moore Mill and they can't stop and they run through the fence, we put the rusty gates up until we provide, finally put new fencing there. Okay, actually it's happened when someone is driving too fast coming either direction around Lancaster Road, coming from Paint Lick or coming from Richmond. My point now is that 500 plus residents could account for an additional 1,000 vehicles traveling that intersection every day. According to the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety, the average number of round trips per vehicle from the home is 2.44, which in our case is 4.88 passes through that same intersection, or roughly 5,000 additional passes added to our current situation. This will undoubtedly disrupt the flow of traffic and cause more accidents to occur at that intersection. I can show you pictures of damaged cars and trucks resulting from going through those fences, not just our fence, but our neighbors' fences. And we have some of those neighbors here today that can verify that that's what happens on a pretty frequent basis. Another big concern is the danger to farmers driving tractors, as Joanna mentioned, in this area. I want to give an example. Last week on Congleton Lane, my husband and I were driving behind a farmer that was driving a tractor, and there are only a few places on that road that you can safely venture to pass a tractor. Cars began to line up behind us. We knew to be aware that the farmer may make a left-hand turn. We were actually talking about this when a car passed both us and the tractor with not much visible sight of oncoming traffic. I just held my breath. The car didn't get hit. The tractor driver didn't get hurt. But maybe many of you are aware of a farmer driving a tractor on Tates Creek Road just a year or so ago getting killed when his tractor was hit as he was attempting to make a left-hand turn. Don't farmers have the right to move their equipment safely? I can think of much more which should be considered before you approve this zone change, but due to my time limit, I ask you to deny this zone change until an impact study is completed on this area. Since you are considering today 3 properties within 1/2 mile of each other in this area, the potential to add 500 residents and 1,000 vehicles. But one final thought. I understand the motivation for the potential developer and his attorney to try to convince all of us that the current zoning is inappropriate. It's the only way they can qualify for land use change. We understand that. We're not trying. But for all of us who actually live there, the truth is we can see with our own eyes every day that every day is much more compelling what we see with our own eyes. To be clear, for those who have eyes to see, our current UC7 agricultural land use designation could not possibly be any more appropriate. And we ask that we can keep it that way. And that's the right thing to do. Now, any of you, we'd be glad. The reason we can't leave our gates open is we have cattle. When someone goes through that intersection and hits our fence from 1295 across 52, then no matter what time of the day or night, we have to get up and make sure those cattle don't get out. So, that's an issue. That's why we have to keep the gates closed. But I'd invite any of you, give us a call. We're retired. We're not like some other folks that have working jobs during the day or the night. We're retired. We'd be glad to take you. We've got a side-by-side. We can take you all over that farm. We can take you where the gates are. We can take you where the fences are. We can take you around the intersection of 1295 and 52 and tell you many stories about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Yeager. Appreciate it. Mr. Yeager?
Thank you, Judge Taylor.
Good to see you.
I hate to follow my wife.
You should. You followed her for a long time, though.
Well, we followed each other for
That's good.
55 and a half years. Yeah. Well, longer than that because we dated for 2.5 years. It's been a wonderful marriage. We spent 40-some years away from Madison County. when I was a young boy.
Mr. Yeager, sorry to interrupt you, but will you just state your name? Sorry.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
got you.
I'm
Yeah.
Dorian Yeager,
Yeah.
2653 Lancaster Road.
Thank you, sir.
When I was a little boy, I was different. Dorian was not a popular name on the playground. I was not like the others, or at least so I thought. I did not feel like I belonged. When we retired and decided, for my sake, because my wife loved her home, we moved back, renovated it. And I began to get reacquainted with the people in this county. And I discovered that I was understood better here than any other place I'd been. Love this county. For the rest of this, I'll be nice and dry, and I'll get over it quickly. I just want to point out that the applications for 2401 Duncannon Lane and 2747 Lancaster Road, which join or are in very close proximity to our property, are both invalid for pretty much the same reasons. First, the applications were both signed not by the owner, but by an attorney or by the developer. Second, the argument that the current land use is inappropriate is very weak. These properties have been used for agricultural purposes for generations, as have the neighboring properties, including mine, and are clearly appropriate for their current use. Third, the applications were incomplete. Instead of presenting detailed facts and analysis, I get the feeling that this whole process has been very hurried. That's my general impression. And I think that we have not been given enough time to consider everything. Much reference was given to the county's urban corridor, which is a huge overlay of the Madison County map that includes a wide swath surrounding Duncannon Lane and stretches all across 52. All of 52 is in that corridor from Garrett County to the Estill County line. This map gives general strategic guidelines and deals with possibilities and concentrations. It's not specific. We can't argue that agricultural zoning is inappropriate everywhere in this corridor, or we'd be radically altering our entire concept of what is appropriate and clearly going against the will of the people. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yeager. Mr. Barnes.
Owen Barnes, 3165 Lancaster Road. No, I'm sorry, not Lancaster Road anymore. Hidden Springs Lane. We're going to name it Rhonda's Lane, but she voted that down. So Mr. Taylor and I got together and we said Hidden Springs. Luke 14:28 says, count the cost. And that's what I'm asking you all this morning, is count the cost of this rezoning. It's my understanding that there's 3 pieces of property that are considered to be rezoned. If you allow this and it's developed, I've also heard, and that's over 500 homes. That's a lot of concrete, a lot of blacktop. I've also heard within 2 miles over on Duncannon, they're looking at 400 units. I really appreciate you, Mr. Botkin. Come out and look at that land, but don't come in the evening. Don't come early in the morning. Come when school session is in. See how congested that area gets from school. I asked my magistrate if he would read a letter that our concerned citizens of Madison County wrote. He declined to do that. He says, I don't agree with what you're going to say.
That's not correct. I emailed you back and said you could email the court.
You did.
And
But I
that-
asked you as my representative.
But that's not my opinion. I wanted to read the letter. And if it,
You didn't say that. You said you would not
and I
read the
won't
letter
read a letter on your behalf. I will speak.
on the concerned citizens of your district. Let's don't get in an argument. I apologize if I misspoke. I really do. That's not the way I read your reply. I wished every one of you would go, just not this man right here. I wished every one of you would go out there and look at this land. I wish you'd go out there in school time when it's congested. I wish you'd shut your eyes and imagine how much traffic's going to be generated if these developments go in. The other consideration, and I should have brought it this morning, but our farm is at the end, when you hit that stop sign at Old Lancaster and New Duncannon, you go over the hill there. Our farm is almost surrounded by Silver Creek. The 400 units out on Duncannon, these 500 units that have a possibility of being built, all that watershed empties into Silver Creek. If you gentlemen want to look at the flooding that we had about a month and a half ago, can you imagine how much more flooding we're going to have on Silver Creek when all that water and that watershed is dumped into Silver Creek? Count the cost of what you all are considering.
I have a question. Can I ask you a question?
You sure can.
The other homes that you're referring to, whose development is that?
I'm not sure which one you're on.
On Duncannon?
On Duncannon. All we heard is once sewer is available, and I don't know the developer's name. I don't know much about it at all. It came from a very reliable source. I can either confirm or deny.
No, that's fine.
But-
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I understand.
It's just, I wasn't aware of it. Is that all in the, are you aware if that's all in the city of Richmond?
The city of Richmond does have control over that. You all don't.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, that's probably a Ramsey property.
This picture.
It probably is a Ramsey property.
This
It's a
picture.
grant?
This
It's a
picture
grant.
here is
Okay.
This is
This
his farm.
is his?
This is his farm. Yeah.
Well, I'm in the bank.
Okay.
But anyway,
Well, just, the point is, there's a lot of development out in that area, and I was just trying to
Yes.
figure out whose was
But
what.
all that
Brandy, she
development-
informed me of all of it.
all that development, all the water would empty into Silver Creek.
Okay.
And again, if you all have time after the meeting.
I'm not as familiar with that, so I'll be happy to come out.
Okay. But I wished all of you would come out and look at this before you make this decision. This is big. And I'm not saying don't develop. I understand that. But like it's been said several times, why don't you do it closer to the city? Why come out and destroy some, because like Reagan said, never. Once it's developed, it never goes back to farmland. Never. Brian, if I misspoke, I apologize. That's not the way I read your text, and again, I apologize. You and I can talk later if you want to.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you all. You all have got a tremendously tough decision. My daddy encouraged me one time to get into politics. That's probably the biggest mistake I ever made is, well, it's not the biggest mistake.
Not getting in was your big mistake?
No, not getting in was the best thing I ever never did. Never did.
Most people that are out there on social media mouthing off are never going to run for anything.
Exactly.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
Somebody else got something else to say out there?
Please be respectful, please.
Okay. And I've tried to be.
Yeah, you have.
And you have been.
Okay. But, you know, I'm speaking from the only book that is completely true.
Amen to that.
The Word of God. Count the cost. Not to just this generation, but the generations to come. And I'll close with this. My granddaughter wrote each one of you all a letter. You all gotten an email. And she was a girl that grew up on a farm. She worked. Work builds character. And I think when you read that letter, you'll say, my goodness, Mr. Barnes is right. You don't have to call me Mr. Barnes. You can call me Owen or Big O or whatever you want to call me. I've been called a lot of stuff.
Coach.
Yeah, Coach. See, I had you in Little League, and I don't think Preston's here, but I had Preston in the Little League. So I don't know if I was a good baseball coach or not, but we had a lot of fun, didn't we?
We did.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate you considering. But again, when you lay down to sleep tonight, count the cost.
Thank you, Owen.
Hey, Big O. Big O. Call me.
Mary Lois.
Around with you. Okay. Can we limit her to 3? 3 minutes. Sometimes you get on a ramble.
The Central Kentucky Business Park Authority is under...
Mary Lois,
What?
you have to say your name.
Do I have,
first.
oh, okay. Mary Kearns, and I live, where do I live? 825 Wimbledon Terrace. That's where I live. Under the leadership of our fiscal court, wants to add 722.14 acres, plus or minus, to the already 300 acres committed in Berea, which will make a grand total of 1,022.14 acres of Madison County land, not Scott, not Fayette, that we have handed over to this entity. Here's the kicker. 25%, approximately 180 and a half acres, will be used for the industrial site. And let me make that clear. This will be under roof, okay? The rest, approximately 542 acres, 0.35, will be green space, stormwater management, conservation areas, whatever that is, and buffer areas, walking trails, sidewalks, and roads. Turning 75% of this farm into a park-like setting, and those are not my words, that's from the Central Kentucky thing. The purchase price is $26,250 per acre. But the money to get the piece of property site-ready would run into the not just a few million. It isn't free money, as a member of the Planning and Zoning said. It is taxpayers' money. Madison County Fiscal Court, it is your responsibility to consider the practicality, viability, and potential success or failure of the project before you make the decision to add the 722 acre plus or minus to the already 4,147.99 acres of bill-ready sites across the state that are sitting empty. The application to change this property zoning stated that the agriculture zoning was inappropriate. Agriculture zoning is most appropriate for this property, since the owner stated, and I know this for a fact, it's been in the family for over 200 years, always is agriculture. Do you all realize that this goes almost back to the establishment of Fort Boonesboro when Daniel Boone came into Kentucky? That was in 1775 or something. The zoning for agriculture is appropriate. It is presently an active cow-calf operation with beautiful farms surrounding this property all the way to exit 95. The attorney said at the Planning and Zoning that the geotech survey was not a consideration. That would be left up to the builders. They would have to worry about that. Well, is the Central Kentucky Business Park Association going to be the ones to manage the building of this site? I think the soil types of this expansive land is of great importance. It determines the type of structure that can be erected on the property. Number 5 of the application submitted states, the property fronts Lexington Road, which has significant capacity to handle whatever traffic is generated by this development. It is obvious whoever wrote this application has not driven Lexington Road between the 90 and the 95 exit. Remember last summer when all the traffic was diverted to Lexington Road when they were doing the work on 75? It's been resurfaced from the 95 to the 97. But between 90 and 95, it's as rough as a cow path. Shoulders are broken, there's humps, bumps. Maybe it would be of best interest to do a traffic study anytime during the day, not at 3 a.m. Lexington Road cannot handle any additional traffic. I met 4 loaded tri-axle Allen trucks on Lexington Road last Wednesday. 3 together and 1 not far behind. That was a scary experience. Economic development, high-paying jobs, higher than the average wages in Madison County, keep a workforce in the county. All have been given as goals for this project. But to purchase this 722-plus acre farm and only use 180 acres for industrial use, that's not even as big as the site in Berea. I know there's roads, sidewalks, sewer, water, but something just doesn't pan out. Why a park instead of more industry, warehouses or single-story office buildings or whatever else they're going to build? People are not going to be beating a path to this site. There are too many other bill-ready sites around. This massive expanse plus the 300 acres in Berea will take years to develop and in order to be ready for occupation. A park is not going to generate any revenue. And what I've read, generating revenue and economic growth through job creations was the driving force behind this exercise. We are inundated with parks anyway. One they can't even finish because they've run out of money. It will be interesting to see if the Central Kentucky Business Park Authority decides to develop this property into a subdivision or something else. But we've sold our heritage for a few pieces of silver. Once the Central Kentucky Business Parks Authority purchases this property, Madison County will no longer have any say on what they do with it. Let that soak in. Yes, I'm a naysayer, but I'm also a voice of reason. So are your many constituents. Since Scott defeated the move to put a regional park in their county, Madison County was the logical place to turn. The 300 acres in Berea wasn't enough. Except for Magistrate Hughes, all of the men on our fiscal court and planning and zoning are in favor of this. Not one of you have listened to the will of the people. You know best. Let me repeat. Once the CKBPA takes control, Madison County has no longer any say in what they do with this property. They can put anything they want on it. Let that soak in.
Thank you, Mary Lois. Mary McMahon.
Hi, my name is Mary McMahon. First of all, I had a question. Who is in charge of the Madison County Sewer Departments?
The Northern Sanitation District is a board, and then the director is hired by that board.
Okay. And then, have you purchased property on the south side for a sewer plant?
I'm sorry?
Have you purchased property on the south side of Madison County for a sewer plant?
The fiscal court has not. It's not something we would purchase.
Okay,
The Northern Sanitation District did purchase.
they did purchase, but that had to be like with a, are you not involved with what they do, or?
No,
how-
they're a district, just like Madison County Utilities is, a water group, like a water association like Kirksville.
Okay, okay.
The fiscal court appoints board members to those boards.
So if you appoint board members to the board, do you not have some recourse with them or suggestions on what happens? No.
No.
Okay.
I mean, they're a public entity, and so they have board meetings that are public, just like our fiscal court meeting is.
They report to the Public Service Commission.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Then finally, I'm going to follow up, as virtually all the citizens that have come up here to talk have. We're deeply concerned about the proposed land purchases, not just Lexington Road, but the others as well, and the zoning changes. As Mary Lois said, these decisions carry long-term financial, environmental, and quality of life consequences for our community, and the public deserves clear answers before any action is taken. The public has been told that grant money will be used to purchase the land. However, once those grant funds are exhausted, all remaining infrastructure costs fall directly on the Madison County taxpayers. Is that correct?
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, depends on other grant dollars that the authority would get, or.
Okay, so let's take the naysayer approach and say you get no grant money. Who pays for the infrastructure?
It would be a decision of the fiscal court if the authority requests any funding from any of the government entities.
Okay. This raises other critical questions. Again, how much will the taxpayers be involved for? And what's the projected timeline for completing the project?
I can't answer that. That'd be a decision of the Central Kentucky Business Park Authority.
Okay. Billy Ray and I haven't for many, many years agreed on anything, and I'm right there with him today on the costs and the long-term projected income from the project. So that seems just another reason to slow down and take a look at things. And again, I'm going to say this like I've said at every meeting, let the new fiscal court have a way in this decision, have a right to say something. Beyond the financial burden, residents are concerned, if not alarmed, by the sheer scale of the proposed zoning changes of the farmland, as Mary Lowe spoke to. Madison County voters are worried about the loss of rural character, the increased traffic on infrastructure, higher taxes to support rapid expansion, environmental impacts, and the long-term erosion of farmland and agricultural community. The majority of the citizens I've spoken with are not opposed to growth, and I am not opposed to growth, but we would like to have it in a slowed down, perhaps planned phase, and reflects what the community wants and what the voters said in May. I think there was a clear indication that they wanted some things to change. Again, I want to ask, why is there such a rush to move forward when the public is asking you to slow down?
Well, for me, there's due process, and it's set out in law, and we as a governing body have to follow the law. If you have an applicant that comes and wants a zone change, we have to see it through to get to a determination of what this body agrees with.
Okay, but you can't table it or postpone it? What, for instance, the traffic study that needs to be done on Lexington Road?
Yeah, Bert, some of this is and this gets into legal conversations because of planning and zoning and laws, and I'm not an attorney, but if you want to answer that question.
I don't really have any comment on it. I mean, this is the presentation that's been made by the applicant.
I need you to come to the microphone.
I was
now.
asking about a traffic study. I understand the applicants come forward. I was there.
In my experience, the traffic study is not typically at this point. It would be something that the planning commission would do during a site development
If they
plan
felt it was
process.
necessary, yeah. There's no requirement that it be done. But that's, that's up to the planning commission, and if the fiscal court wants to take it on its face with or without, that's not really for me to say. That's up to the applicant, if they want to have that done or not.
Okay, perhaps then you can answer the legal question of tabling it or postponing it. Can we do that? Can the fiscal court do that?
The fiscal court, making me use my microphone. The fiscal court can vote however they want, one way or the other. However, planning and zoning is a little bit different than other types of ordinances or resolutions that may come in effect. By operation of law, what happens at planning and zoning can take effect regardless of what tabling may happen by the fiscal court. So even if they table it, there's I think 90 days, don't quote me on it because I'd have to go back and pull the statute, but there has to be an actual majority vote to overrule the findings by planning and zoning to keep them from going into effect.
A majority vote of the fiscal court?
Yes.
Okay.
And there has to happen within a time period. Otherwise, I think I'm right about that on the statute, but I would have to pull it to look it up for sure.
Okay.
I gotta stop you there. We have to get minutes for this meeting. It's under my constitutional oath to do that. So if you're gonna speak, you're gonna have to be at the microphone so it can be recorded.
Scott's up next, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Mayor. Again, that's why I said don't quote me on it. I'd have to pull the statute for it because it's based on how planning and what planning and zoning does. It's different than some of the others, but.
Okay, well, I just like to voice the concerns of many that maybe you could consider this or follow the rule of law and see what needs to be done to, let it sink in and figure out if there's any common ground.
Thank you. Scott Collins. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Scott Collins, 2767 Lancaster Road. The proposed change surrounds my property.
Do you mind, before you get into your presentation, will you say what you said there a minute ago?
I will.
Okay.
I don't recall the number, the year in which the alternate process was adopted by the fiscal court, but it did change it from a 90-day period where you default and the zoning, Planning and Zoning Commission would automatically become law unless there was some alternate chosen. But the fiscal court said, no, we don't want that one. We'll take the 21-day default rule. So at 21 days from last Tuesday, it will become official unless, number one, the fiscal court says, nope, we want to own that decision and weigh in ourselves, or some member of the community says, no, we demand that the fiscal court weigh in, and then you have the control, as Ms. Heyman has said, then you can do anything you want. Table it, further discussion, and I appreciate you, Reagan, what you said. It is a little out of order to have a traffic study before you do other things, but there's been such an outcry, and even members of the panel here, magistrates, you're saying, look, we don't know. And Judge, I appreciate you too saying, I don't know. That's a good question. Let's find out. These are big choices. We're having a whole lot of land all at once. So back to my presentation, I'll tag on something, Mike, you said about the number of acreage. In the comprehensive plan in 2021 stated that we had 83%, but by 2022, when the new research was done, we went from 83% farmland of all the acreage in the county down to 61%. Now what was happening, that's an 8 times the normal average of decrease, 8 times. When you look at the next set of statistics, it looks like we've been decreasing that somewhere between 1% to 3%. So the last numbers we have are from 2022. If you just say 3%, that's been 5 years, that's another 15%. We're right at 49% of our land is agricultural, going from 83 in less than 10 years, gentlemen. 83% down to less than 50. Am I right or wrong? I don't know. There's no data. I'd like to see some data. You look like you're going to say something.
No, I don't want to interrupt you.
All I'm going to do is just highlight some points, because otherwise this is rather redundant. Most of the arguments that I would have said, someone else has made much more clearly than I would have. I would say, number one, this is regarding the 2401, a business district of 4 acres right there on Duncannon's extension. First off, I praise you for what you've done. Getting that through there, getting that extension was a miracle. I didn't like the idea at first, but it has changed everything. In terms of traffic flow, my property is sitting right in the middle of this proposed change. Every single morning, traffic was stopped and backed up for at least 1/2 mile waiting for the schools to get through there. Now, we've had no sort of proposal to say which way the proposed change would exit that proposed subdivision. Is it going to go to Duncannon or not? Because if it's dumping onto Lancaster, we're going completely backward in this process. So this is spot zoning to put on Duncannon, a business district of 4 acres, and then residential everywhere else is also spot zoning, because every property around it, except for my puny little 2 acres, which is residential. The only reason it is because after the Gibsons subdivided out, Clara's family members subdivided out, that land was never brought back in and put in part of the whole farm. I'd love to regain the property instead of it going to you guys, because I would like to see it restored to its farmland state. But I can't get farm zoning. I don't have 10 acres. I got 2 acres. I am big into preservation. I'm big into maintaining our culture. I am pro-growth. I'm not just okay with growth. I am pro-growth, but I'm also pro-conservation and preservation of our historic structures and heritage. And I want that farm preserved. That's what I want. In terms of pro-growth and development, the 3 options that exist for property, when you go from you have the industrial, you could go residential, or you could go agricultural. Industrial, agricultural produce profit. Residential does not. If you look at the cost analysis, which a fiscal court is to do, for every dollar of revenue brought in by residential property taxes, there is $1.60 spent on governmental services to support that. That's why, gentlemen, we're constantly struggling with this budget and it's a miracle. I don't know how you do it. And that's why you're getting fussed at all the time, because it is a difficult job to pull this off. We're digging the hole deeper. This doesn't make any sense to go residential on these properties. Find a farm to buy up the land. Sell it to people that are interested in making it do what it's most appropriately designed to do. Two other things and I'm done. Someone else mentioned the application is deficient. The statute says 3 people can apply for a zoning change. The planning and zoning can apply, the fiscal court can apply, or the property owner, not somebody who has a contract to purchase it if they can get a change approved. I do understand that you came as a witness, but a witness is not skin in the game. Signing the application, saying it's my land and I'll deal with the consequences of the land change, paying the attorney out of your own pocket, skin in the game, and actually then having to submit before the planning and zoning the subdivision plan so it can be approved is skin in the game. This is not. Now, we did ask a lot of people simply showed up last week and said, look, slow this down. The application is deficient. 2 things cause zoning changes to be overturned by the court. The highest percentage of overturns are based on spot zoning. The second is a deficient application. This application is not right. It needs to be denied today or at your next meeting and resubmitted and done the right way. That procedurally is what's supposed to be done. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Okay, yeah, I've got one more. Nathan Billings.
Judge Taylor, gentlemen of the fiscal court, my name is Nathan Billings. I'm with Billings Law Firm from Lexington. My address is 145 Constitution Street in Lexington. It's my pleasure today to speak on behalf of a new group in Madison County called Madison County Forward. If you watched the video from last week's Planning Commission hearing, you will notice that there is a significant attendance at that meeting. And unlike a number of Planning Commission and Fiscal Court meetings in the past, that meeting was very well attended, perhaps a record attendance, by the very people who build houses, buildings, roads, and create jobs in Madison County. This group, which consists of developers, builders, contractors, suppliers, material men, laborers, subcontractors, has decided that it's important for them to come and begin speaking publicly as well, instead of taking social media browbeating time and time again, because they provide jobs and they do the building that's supporting Madison County. I'm not here today to go into the nuances of each of the zone changes that you all did a first reading today, or that you will likely do or possibly do a second reading in 2 weeks, or for the 3 other zone changes that a first reading will possibly appear in 2 weeks. My goal today is to encourage you all, as the fiscal court, to hear the other people in Madison County who don't always come to these meetings and speak up. When you go to church on Sunday, ask people, where do you work? Where does your husband work? Where does your son work? Where does your daughter work? Where do your parents work? And understand the number of people who are employed in Madison County by the jobs that development creates. I've done land use for about 25 years all over central Kentucky. I don't do a lot down in here in Madison County. Mr. Worley and Corey and other attorneys sort of have the market down here. But I've been asked to come down and help this group promote its message that people who say they're for smart growth need to actually start making proposals on what that means, and actually put proposals on the table instead of saying don't do this or don't do that, to begin proposing how to solve these problems so that development can move forward. One of the suggestions was that you should table these hearings in a discussion about KRS 100 a few minutes ago. KRS 100, as I read it, provides that once the Planning Commission makes a recommendation of approval, as you all know, they only make a recommendation of approval or disapproval of a zone change, that the legislative body, in this case the fiscal court, has to act within 90 days. And so you can table the decision, or what's called a postponement or a continuance, but after 90 days, the Planning Commission recommendation takes place automatically by operation of law. And local ordinance cannot change that 90-day period, in my opinion. What that means is that can be tabled, but it also means sometime in middle of October, the zone change approvals will occur regardless of this fiscal court's action. So having a hearing is actually helpful because people get to come and comment and make their points known. And you all get to benefit because you hear comments and you can come and learn. And you ask about visiting the farms. I don't represent the Carrs. I don't represent the Central Kentucky Business Park. But I did ask Mr. Carr about access to his farm. And anytime you'd like to come see it, if you haven't already, call Mr. Carr and he'll be glad to show you the property. We want to make sure you have full access to see it, as well as the rest of the fiscal court if you'd like to come out and look at it. We want to make sure that you can see and understand those questions for the farm. The record last week for all three zone changes is complete. You can watch those videos and educate yourself and inform yourselves as to those opinions, as to the findings of fact, and as to the conclusions of law. I would encourage you all to not just listen to comments that were made today or that might be made in 2 weeks regarding these zone changes, but also to listen to the comments that were made on the record there. And you shouldn't form your opinion based on discussions you have outside of a fiscal court meeting. But I know that you all have interactions with, and there's nothing wrong with having those interactions or communications outside of a meeting. You should make your decision in the meeting, but go and talk to other people and find out how many people are employed in development and construction and businesses that are supported by growth. The issue you're facing in Madison County is not limited to you all. This is a higher level issue, but Lexington made a decision in the late 90s that it wasn't going to expand its urban service boundary, and there's been one expansion a year ago. Its decision, unfortunately, impacted its neighbors significantly, like Madison County and Richmond and Scott County and Jessamine County and Nicholasville and Winchester. And you all aren't isolated in the tension and the implications and the consequences that Lexington had. One of the things I'd encourage people is call the mayor of Lexington, city council up there, and complain to them that what they've done is negatively impacting you all, if that's your view. Let them know that what they do impacts their neighbors, because it's true. And they need to hear from people outside of Lexington. You all have a challenge. And the challenge is not unique, and it's hard. But Kentucky's General Assembly has decided that there's a process for development in Kentucky. And the process is not a democratic vote. It's not who shows up at a meeting. It's not who's the loudest. It's not who has the most in attendance. It's not who has the most social media posts on Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok. The KRS 100 process by the General Assembly provides a short window, 60 days or less, for the Planning Commission to accept an application and to have a hearing unless the applicant decides to waive it. And then it provides for a 90-day window for the legislative body to take an action, which means at the outside, there's approximately a 150-day window for a land use decision. People can say it's too short. People can say it's too long. It doesn't really matter. It's what the law of Kentucky is. The General Assembly can change that process. Local jurisdictions cannot. Finally, with respect to this issue, it's not going to get resolved today. It's not going to get resolved in 2 weeks. It's not going to get resolved in January. Madison County has a pressure to grow, and the question for you all as magistrates in the fiscal court is, how do you adopt a plan to accommodate growth because it's coming? And you've done that. It's called the comprehensive plan. And every time you come to a meeting, you should look at the plan or be mindful of what's in that plan, because it's kind of long to read it before every meeting, and ask the question, is what we're doing in conformity with what we've already said our plan for growth is. And there's items in that comprehensive plan that are subjective, but there's also ones that are objective. And that's the measure of whether what you're doing is correct or not. And what I would encourage you all is, I don't know where I am on the speaker list, if I'm close to the end or not, but from the comments today, I didn't hear a single one actually reference the comprehensive plan. My goal today is not to convince you for any three of these projects individually. I'm not here to lobby for any one of them individually. I'm here to encourage you all to look at the comprehensive plan, to look at the Planning Commission record and how it evaluates the comprehensive plan, and whether the projects that come before you meet the comprehensive plan. That's what the General Assembly said your job is, and I'm not trying to be high-handed about it. I'm just letting you know that's what the law of Kentucky is. That's what your job is. And so take all the comments into consideration. Absolutely, you need to do that. You need to listen to the residents. But you also need to look at the plan that's been adopted and follow the law and not just listen to Facebook posts. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. All right, appreciate everybody's comments today. Next on our agenda is to approve the transfers and pay the claims.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Have a motion and a second. Hearing none, call the roll.
Master Lockmuller?
Yes.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Bucket?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Tom, did you want to say something? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
I do want to say something.
You mentioned that.
The very first thing I want to say is that I appreciate every single letter that has been sent to us, that's been emailed on both sides of the situation. Because typically speaking, my experience in the last 12 years is that we get letters from one side. We never hear from the other side. But this time we've gotten letters from both sides, and I appreciate those. I appreciate the viewpoints from every single person here. Also, many comments have been made today about, you know, the intersections at 1295 and the traffic out on 52 and all that. And just until the last year and a half to 2 years, I've been the magistrate over that area for 10 years. I know what the traffic's like out there. I've spent a lot of time with our state representatives to getting whatever improvements that are made, having them made to the 1295-52 intersection. That's been an ongoing process for years, so I understand what's going on out there. Also want to say that folks need to understand, and several courts ago this was brought up, but it didn't cover everything. But I want to say this. There's 4 ways, only 4 ways, for a county to increase revenue. The very first way is cut people. You reduce the size of your employees, you immediately put money back in your budget. Not just the salaries, but all the backside, the insurance, their retirement, everything else. All of that goes back into your budget. The second way you do it is you cut services. Well, nobody wants to cut services. Nobody don't want the snowplows to run. Nobody doesn't want a sheriff's department to show up whenever there's a crime. Nobody doesn't want a 4-minute response to the fire department if your house is on fire. Everybody wants services. Next way you do it is the absolute most unpopular way to do it, and I know this because I've been through it. Raise taxes. Nobody, absolutely nobody. You don't want it. We don't want it. We're residents too. Nobody wants taxes increased. And the very last way to do it is you increase your revenue, and you do that by growth. That's it. Only 4 ways that you can increase revenue. So, you know, I just want to end that by saying thank you for coming to these meetings. I've got one right here. I've got the current comprehensive plan right here. This is it. My name is on the inside of that document. I was on that committee. I don't know, I'm not going to ask, but if you're in this room, I would ask you to yourself. When the comprehensive plan was going on, did you have input to it? There were surveys that were sent out, there were meetings that were held. That process is going on right now. I urge you If you weren't a part of the last one, you need to be a part of the current one. Show up to the meetings when they have them, give your input to it, let the elected officials and the people on that committee, let them know how you feel and how you want the county to grow, because that is our guideline. That's what we've got to go by. So, once again, thank you for coming. I appreciate your support. We have a meeting every 2 weeks. Come to every one of them. We need to know it. The new court needs to know it, and this is the only way we know is if you show up. So, I'm done. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Our next meeting's August the 11th, 2026. It'll be right back here in Richmond at 9:30 a.m. Again, our next meeting will be August the 11th, 2026, right back here in Richmond at 9:30 a.m. I need a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Master Hughes?
Yes.
Master Buchan?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Lockmuller?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thank you all. Appreciate it.